actually the first person from my country who ever graduated from Stanford GSB with an MBA. So
Wow.
expertise comes with a price. And naivete comes with
Mm.
this benefit of, I don't know anything. So, maybe this should work. This should work. Fundamental idea of how work is done is changing. The future is going to be where AI-led experience will be the first default experience. And human experience will be a premium experience.
Welcome to Artificial Insights, the podcast where we learn to build AI businesses by interviewing product leaders and innovators in AI. I'm your host, Daniel Maneri, and today I'm joined by Chyngyz Dzhumanazarov. He's the CEO and founder of Kodif, a company that augments customer support teams with teams of AI agents. He's one of the clearest thinking people that I've talked to on this subject of how AI will change support, but also human interactions. He's also the first person from his home country of Kyrgyzstan to earn a Stanford MBA. And he's done all of this, including founding companies without a technical background. I think you're going to have a great time hearing what he has to say. Chyngyz, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. So I'm Chyngyz. Right now, I'm the founder and CEO at Kodif AI. We're building agentic AI for complex customer support automation. And my background, so I'm from Kyrgyzstan originally. I moved to the States back in 2014. And the reason why I came to the US because I won a green card lottery. And that's how I ended up in the US. And before my move to the US, I was in private equity and venture capital space. So I spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, Central Asia, investing in healthcare, education industries. And when I moved to the States, I want to start a company, and I did. I started a logistics supply chain company back in New Jersey, and which I scaled to, 10 million in revenue. It was pretty successful venture, and I sold it, and then I decided, okay, what's next? And I decided to go to Stanford Business School. I decided to continue my education. That's how I ended up in Silicon Valley, and I was fascinated, by what's going on here. I had classes where, Eric Schmidt would teach a class, like the legendary Eric Schmidt who built Google, like legendary Reid Hoffman would teach a class. And I was just fascinated. I was like, this was a whole new world for me, and for a kid from Kyrgyzstan. And a fun fact about me is that I'm actually the first person from my country who ever graduated from Stanford GSB with an MBA. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's just a small country, right? It's like a small country, and I was so fortunate to be here, and I just was like fascinated by what's going on, and it's a new world. And because I was always entrepreneurial, and my mom was an entrepreneur, and I always tell this because she inspired me to become an entrepreneur as well. But her entrepreneurial journey was different because she was born, in 1960s, and she was like 20 something when Soviet Union collapsed. So she had to start entrepreneurship because of necessity. And I always tell this
Mm.
because I started entrepreneurship not because of necessity, because of opportunity. These are like two different entrepreneurial journeys. And in my opinion, I'm so fortunate. And I always say this that I kind of, stand on the shoulders of giants. And my mom is the biggest giant in my life. So she was a big inspiration. And so that's how I kind of, knew that I want to start a company. And here I am. Like I'm like, in my like late 20s. I'm in Silicon Valley, a kid from Kyrgyzstan who wants to start a company. I realized that I need to find a technical co-founder because I'm not technical. I can do business stuff, I can sell and I can market stuff, but I'm not technical. And that's when I started looking for, a technical co-founder. And I was fortunate to meet my co-founder Norm, who was at Uber, this super smart guy from Kyrgyzstan as well,
Mm.
and he was at Uber building this platform called Policy Engine, which is behind all this customer support automation stuff. So if you use Uber Eats, click the help section in the app, like everything you see there is powered by this platform. And Nor was actually the first engineer who started working on it. Huge impact, like led to 150 million requests automated every month, huge scale. And I was like, hey, an entrepreneur in me, I was like, Norm, we should start a company and build bring these experiences to companies which don't have this army of engineers, which Uber has. So that was basically the pitch I gave him. And he was also very entrepreneurial. And we decided to start Kodif. And yeah, I guess that's kind of a quick background on me and what we're working on.
Wow. There's a lot to dig in there, especially that standing on the shoulders of what your mom did. That's amazing. But there's a question I like to ask that I think is on everyone's minds with a podcast like this, which is Chyngyz, are you an AI?
Um, No, I am not. Not yet, at least.
Well, that's good to hear. I have had someone say that they were being turned into an AI for a course because they were going to turn themselves into an assistant. So let us know when that happens.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
And I'm very curious to know, what do you think is that big difference between entrepreneurship from necessity versus opportunity?
Yeah, I guess, I just compare like, my journey with my mom's journey. So my mom's journey was like, she just didn't have an option. And I feel like this entrepreneurship out of necessity is more maybe even like powerful. Like it's just you like unstoppable because you have kids to feed, like at home who are hungry. And you're like, my mom was like 25 when she started her first venture. She started like going to other countries, basically importing goods because Soviet Union collapsed. And basically there were moments where like people were unemployed. There was no bread on the table. Basically, we had those times. And whenever I think you have this moment in life, I think you're just so relentless. Like you just
Mm,
cannot accept no from someone. I feel like whenever
yeah.
you're, I think in my opinion, like whenever you're entrepreneur out of necessity, you're unstoppable. I feel like you
Mm,
just go all in because you have your kids back at home. When it's entrepreneurship out of opportunity, I think you can. And in the first phase, probably like the upside is that you're actually like unstoppable, relentless. On the downside is like you're just thinking about this next move. You're not like
mm,
taking a big picture, like, okay, what's going on in the world, like how we can like big a big business. And my mom, she never thought about building a big business. She was just thinking about like building a business to make ends meet and to feed her family. And in my case, I think I was like fortunate because I could land a good job, in Silicon Valley. And but then for me, it was like the reason why I decided to take this entrepreneurial journey in Silicon Valley because I felt this, right? So I'm here, from Kyrgyzstan. My whole family is back home, like my parents,
mm.
my sisters, my brothers, my nephews, the whole extended family is back in Kyrgyzstan, and it's very far. In order to get to Kyrgyzstan, you need to spend 24 hours actually.
Woo.
And then so imagine I'm here, right? And I'm like building my life here. The question I ask myself, I'm paying a very high price, to be here. What I mean by that is I'm not seeing my parents getting old. I'm not seeing my brothers
Mm,
getting, all this experiencing this like life events, and I'm not seeing my nephews and nieces growing up. So I'm paying a high price to be here. And I'm like, if I'm paying this high price, then I should take like the biggest upside possibility journey. And for
mm,
me, entrepreneurship was one of this, paths which I could take. So that's kind of how I was thinking about this
mm,
opportunity as well, and the price I'm paying to be here. And I'm not here because I want to, live a comfortable life. I can live a very comfortable life back in Kyrgyzstan, but I want to actually challenge myself, grow personally and professionally, meet amazing people, and build a great company. So
yeah, that's awesome. Is there an obstacle in particular that motivation has helped you overcome?
yeah, I mean, this is I think the superpower I have, which is like I can take any risk, right? My risk tolerance is pretty high because also like knowing where I come from, I'm like, yeah, like everything is an upside here. So if you told
Mm,
Chyngyz when I was 18 years old, who didn't speak any English, like Chyngyz, you will be in Silicon Valley when you'll be like 30 something, and you'll be building a tech company. You'll raise a bunch of money. You'll hire really smart people to build a company with you. Like back then, I mean, I couldn't imagine that that was possible, right? And here I am, and I think that gives me the perspective. I think most people probably don't have, which is, I mean, in the US, maybe not everyone, but in the US, which is, I think that's a baseline, right? That's where I come from. And for me, I'm already like kind of living the dream of Chinggis, which was 18 years old. So that's the perspective and being super grateful, but also everything is I'm already like on the upside. I just need to like keep pushing.
mm,
So
mm. That sounds like a very powerful motivation.
thanks.
And you mentioned that you have a technical co-founder,
Yeah.
but you founded an AI company. So
hmm
what's it been like for you as the non-technical person, but driving an AI company?
Yeah. Yeah. Really good question. I think I'm not technical, but I'm such a curious person. Like
Mm,
the one characteristic which if there was, we had this exercise with my wife, which was like, I think someone asked us, it was like a group of friends, and we were like asking, like, if you wrote a book, or if there was a book about you, how you would name it? And my wife immediately said unstoppable, and she's unstoppable. She's also an entrepreneur. Probably you need to also
Ah,
invite her to your
yes.
podcast. She's a founder of company Alma. It's AI company helping immigration make it easier. Try
Awesome. Yeah.
Alma.ai. But and I was thinking about it, like like how I would name my book, and my book would be driven by curiosity, because
Mm,
every single thing was like I was able to achieve, or I was able to learn because I was just curious. Oh, what is this? Why is it this way? And so I feel my this characteristic of mine, I think, is helping me a lot. Being a non-technical founder in an AI startup, and I feel like, and I learn a lot, from my co-founder, who's like
mm,
very technical. He's very deep into AI and ML. So but at the same time, I feel like the AI is moving so fast, and it's every week. I think it hasn't been a week where not something new didn't come up. Every week something new, and you just need to be adaptable. You need to be resilient. You just need to learn fast. I think that's kind of the attitude I
mm,
have, and I think being like non-technical even gives me like I'm so naive maybe sometimes,
mm,
which might be even a good thing. You know, that I'm like I can assume certain things, and then I can ask, "Hey, is this possible? I think this should be possible." And technical people, like, first they're like, "This is not possible." But then they come back in a couple of days like, "Chinggis, you cannot believe, but this was possible." Because AI is changing so many things. A couple of days ago, I was just having a coffee chat with one of our engineers, and he's a very strong engineer, and he was so impressed by recent Claude, by Anthropic's code assistant. He was basically like, "You don't believe it, but I gave a task. I went to grab a coffee. I came back. The code was complete. There was like very small tweaks I made, and things were like working perfectly."
wow.
Well, and like these are the things, right? And I think if you're an expert, like you're really an expert, I think of course you know so much, but the downside is that you assume certain things
Mm,
which maybe are not true now because of the changes which happened like yesterday. So I feel like this expertise comes with a price, and naivete comes with
mm,
this benefit of I don't know anything. So it's just like I don't know. Maybe this should work. This should work. And having this assumption, I think having this, yeah, I guess like this, I would say it's even a plus, sometimes. But at the same time, you need to be like relentlessly learning about the new
yeah.
ways of solving problems, and AI is a solution. I feel like what we're doing
Mm.
here at Kodif is like we're solving problems, and understanding the customer's problem, I think, is more important than than knowing, oh, specific thing AI can do or cannot do,
Yeah.
but really understanding like your user's problem. I think that's basically, I think, my main job actually here.
I like that. And it ties back into what you mentioned. Your pitch to your co founder was, hey, I think there's a lot of problems that we could solve for a bunch of businesses.
Yeah.
So, how did you even arrive at that pitch and how did that work out?
Yeah, in hindsight, I remember when I heard his pitch about what he built at Uber, I was like, interesting. I never heard, such a platform and the impact it made. I'm like, and Uber is one of the most innovative companies, of our generation. If Uber did this year ago, or like half a year ago, I'm sure there's so many companies who have never even thought about this. So, and one of the biggest, I think, insights I think Norm had when he was building this tool at Uber is that because they built this a few automations, like engineering team, the core engineering team in the Bay Area, and Uber is a multi-global. It's a global company. Like they have multi like regions, like global meta regions, like India, Europe, like US, and so they quickly realized that they cannot scale automations beyond what they built. So they had to go beyond building this. They had to reimagine building these automations, the process of building automations, and they built this maybe five, six automations, which was automating maybe 10%, but they quickly realized that customer support experience in different countries is very different. Like refund experience in Argentina is very different from refund experience in India because the payment methods are different. They're like the experience is different. So expectations are different. So then they had to kind of rethink their approach. And what they did was like, what if we enable non-technical business teams on the ground to design and build these end-to-end automations themselves? Because they're the experts of the business, they're closer to the user. What if we build a tool for them so they can understand, they can build, and they can iterate and they can test. And that's what led them to from like 10% to like 80% automation like in a year or two, because they enabled non-technical business teams to build this thing. So when I heard this pitch, I was like, this is awesome. And we started doing this from Stanford. One lesson I learned was talk to users, right? Talk to people, learn about if it's a problem or not. They didn't have the same problem. If you ask, oh, are you trying to scale your automations? No one would say yes. So you had to ask the right questions. So at some point we found that a lot of brands in the US, mid-market brands, support teams, they don't get enough engineering resources. Support teams, they are, it's perceived by the company as a cost center. And that's why you don't get enough engineering resources, because engineering resources are spent on revenue generating projects and core product stuff or marketing. And then we were like, this was the insight where we were like, what if we enable non-technical business teams in customer support teams to build and manage these automations, just like we did at Uber? That was basically the aha moment for us. We were like, there is a need for sure. Business teams on support team, they really want to build these things, but they don't have engineering resources and they don't have a platform which they can use to build this end to end. So that was basically a kind of aha moment for us to say there's something here.
And you mentioned something that is super important but super tricky, which is asking the right questions.
Mhm.
How did you figure that out? Because nobody's going to say, "Oh, I need more engineering
Yeah,
resources. Can you solve
no.
that for me?"
Yeah. I think I like this Henry Ford's quote, right? Which is, if you ask people around what they need, they would have told me, like, I need a faster horse, right? So that would, exactly. So what I think philosophy we have is like, customers are experts of the problem and we're the experts of the solution. So we never ask, oh, what do you think we should build? No. The question is, can you tell me, like open-ended questions, can you tell me how you do things, And we're like, oh, can you tell me more about why do you do these things in this way? And how much time do you spend? So like, and I think the curiosity mindset helps so much. And I recently heard this quote, I think it was like Lex Friedman's podcast, I think, but it was this difference between perception and perspective. And I think being able to switch whenever you're perceiving something from from your perspective to the other person's perspective. And I think this ability to switch every single time when you're selling, when you're like talking to clients, being able to see things from their perspective, try as much as you can. And I would recommend one book. It's called Mom Test. I don't know if you heard about this book, but that book actually I found one of the most helpful books when I was like talking to users, how to approach conversations, be open-minded, ask open-ended questions. And also what I found is like in the US, people are very nice, like in Kyrgyzstan people are nice, but they're very direct. If they don't like something, they like, Chingyz, you're working on like bullshit idea. People in Kyrgyzstan will tell me that. And
That's valuable.
that's super valuable, right? In the US, people are so nice, they would be sugarcoating. They would be like, this sounds great. This sounds great. And then like you follow up or you do something, they just don't respond, or like they're like, oh, by the way, this is cool, but yeah, we have other priorities, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like being able to understand what they actually mean, not what they actually say. This is so
Mm.
important, especially in this journey from 0 to 1. So, and
Mm.
I think, the mom test helped me. I think this curiosity, which is like, just, I want to understand from your perspective, like, and then, for example, there was this conversation I remember when we was just getting started. I was like, and the person was like so excited. I was like, yeah, it's such a big problem for me. I hate this, blah blah blah. And then I was like, okay, like, what are you not able to achieve, or what's the implication of this pain point for you? And he says, yeah, I have this part-time person who's spending like 1 hour like a month solving this problem for me. And I was like, okay, you are speaking so passionately about this problem, but the implication is just 1 hour part-time person, you know, and it's, like this sometimes, like, how you say it, it doesn't mean actually like what's the implication of this pain
Mm.
point. And if I like went and built something for this pain, I would have definitely wasted a few months of my time. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard the advice to try and figure out what people will pay for it.
mhm, mhm.
How has that worked out for you?
Yeah. So in my opinion, I know, like, it's not perfect, but what my perspective was like, whenever you start talking to users in the very early days, especially B2B users. If you're building a B2B company, like what I was doing at the time, and then still, I started seeing like looking for signals before the money. The money is the
Mm.
ultimate value, but I felt like, there's some like other like leading indicators of value. For example, if the person keeps spending time with me, because these are busy people, time is definitely one of the values. Two is reputation. Are they willing to introduce me to their network? Are they willing to introduce me to their boss or peer in the company? The boss is like higher regarded signal, because if they're introducing me to their boss, this is a real pain, and I think the boss really cares as well. So there's this, some
Mm.
early like signals of something is moving in the right direction. So asking for time, more time, and asking for reputation, like getting some introductions, and then it comes down to money. So it's kind of like this ultimate value. So that's kind of how the framework I built for myself. Also, like another kind of dimension of the same thing, which is more okay. We get to a point where like we build something, we would prioritize usage over revenue, or logos over revenue.
Mm.
So we would say like, hey, we need feedback, right? And you need to pay something, but it's not about the money for now. We need to pay some. You need to pay some money so that you have skin in the game. But
Mm.
it's not something that is prohibitive for you. Like it's not. It doesn't require you to go and get a budget, approval or something. And
Mm.
even would sometimes ask, what would be the price you would be able to sign off yourself? And they would tell me like, oh, 2K, I can do that. And we were like, okay, 2K it is, and just we would get this product into their hands. And then we would be like constantly like watching how they're using it, how they're like, actually like getting value out of it. And so, and I would say like usage is over revenue in the first 6 or 9 months of your company. And I think always thinking about like some leading indicators of value, which is, in my opinion, it's, time, reputation, and money, like money being the ultimate, ultimate
Yeah.
signal of value.
Yeah. No, that's a really clear framework. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, how does Kodif use AI?
Yeah. So we use AI in every piece of our product. So without AI, Kodif would not exist. Basically, that's kind of the description. We have a system of AI agents. And when I say system of AI agents, we look at like customer support team from the composition of the team perspective. Typically,
Mm.
customer support team, every support team has a support agent who's actually working on cases, working on tickets. Then we have support manager who is actually looking at all the tickets. They're like checking the quality, if it's good or not. They're checking like if agents are following the policies, right? SOPs, of the
Mm.
company. They're also generating new knowledge base articles. They're also thinking about like how we can improve the processes, right? They're managing the team. And then we have directors who are actually looking at data, right? Okay, how we can make it better, how we can improve the system, how we can get insights from support ticket data to educate the rest of the business on what's going on. For
Mm.
example, if the product launch went wrong, the support tickets will tell you about it. And the way we think, about our system of AI agents is in a similar fashion. We think there should be an AI agent who is kind of doing the work of support agent. We have AI manager who is actually doing the work of AI manager, like helping, which is like generating new knowledge base articles. We are always looking
Mm.
into like opportunities to improve processes, and AI can do that as well. And then like at the highest level, it's AI director, which is actually looking at all the tickets and actually getting insights, saying, hey, it looks like there's this, spike in this ticket type, and signaling early on to the rest of the team, maybe to the rest of the company if it was a market. Sometimes, marketing campaign can go wrong.
Mm.
You get so many tickets, right? So having this quick feedback loop between support tickets and the rest of the business, that's also something that our AI director does. So in a
Mm.
nutshell, we look, we were building system of AI agents which can augment human agents, support managers, and then directors.
And that's a fascinating way to build a whole system because it sounds like you're not just, I guess, replacing a help desk, but you're actually augmenting the whole support team.
Exactly.
How do you talk about that with customers? Could you
Yeah.
describe it a bit more?
Yeah, we say this, right? So And I want to just share like also the context, right? Like on what was going on in the support space in the past, like maybe 30 years in software
Sure,
space.
please.
So the fundamental idea of how work is done is changing. So the work, I think, in support world was all about human doing the real work, doing tickets. And the whole ecosystem of tools emerged as a result of this fundamental idea. And I'll give you examples. So ticketing platforms came up because help desk, right? Okay, we need to enable human to receive a ticket, read a ticket, understand what's going on, go resolve the problem, and respond back. Right? There's some, of course, it's more complex than that, but high level, that's what ticketing platforms do, enabling humans to resolve issues. Then workforce management tools came up and they were like, okay, we need to now schedule these human agents. We need to enable them to be scheduled across the time zones and shifts, depending on your seasonality, depending on the busyness of your support or operations. Then there's another tooling, which is QA software. Okay, now we need to check the quality of these human support agents, how they're responding to customers, right? Then there's knowledge management platforms, Guru, Asam, I think was like Confluence, some others, where they're enabling humans to retrieve knowledge from systems and find the knowledge faster to respond to customers. So if you think about in a BPO industry, right? BPO industry by itself is just providing this human workforce. And it was all around this idea that humans is the atomic unit of work. And then there are all these tools. And then now we're seeing this in real world is that AI agents can do this work for humans, which kind of raises this big question: what's going to happen, right? And no one knows what's going to happen, but I feel like that's the world we're living in. And Kodif is one of the companies which is, inventing this kind of future. We're like building this future where agentic AI can do the work, and also we can actually do insights from tickets. So that's kind of what's going on, I think, on the macro level. If we like zoom out, right? If we zoom in, the way we talk about our platform is we call this operating system for your CX team. We're building
Mm.
like AI CX team, AI teammates, AI CX teammates. So that's kind of our pitch. And when we explain, this makes sense. We're like, we know like workflows at each level of the organization. And of course, the most of our attention goes to this agentic, which is actually like resolving contextual, complicated action required tickets. We call them tier two tickets, where it requires an action in multiple systems.
Mhm.
So that's what actually Kodif does very well, and this is historically was done only by human agents.
Mm. And you said a fascinating term there, which was the atomic unit of work.
Hmm.
And it sounds like you're rethinking what support should look like as an AI first product. How has that evolved? How did you get to that?
Yeah, I think it's coming from the real world examples and the real work with our customers. So I think the future is going to be where like AI led experience will be like the first default experience. And human experience will be a premium experience if something didn't go well, which will be less and less because AI will get better, AI will learn, and also we will build more AI agents for every single company, right? So there will be more cases covered by AI. So eventually, like today, if you think about, you have millions of agents and like you have like maybe 90% is like human agents and 10% is AI, is going to flip in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even faster than that. But I think this idea that AI is add-on right now, which still kind of, exists, I think, it will be
Yep.
like completely flipped. It will be like human experience will be an add-on experience and it will be like completely like
Mm.
uh, different like dynamics there. And we think a lot about this actually, right? We look at our
Mm.
customers, how they're thinking about this. And of course, the AI by itself, like without humans. And I think one like idea which kind of fascinates me is that, for the first time almost in the history of software, it's like AI is actually or tools are going to do the work and humans will be enabling these tools to do the work because without humans
Mm.
training, without humans involvement into coaching this AI agent, it won't work. So, and if you think about the previous generation of software, it was always like about software enabling humans to do the work, right? Ticketing platforms enable humans to do the work, but still they do the work. The ultimate like atomic unit of work is done by humans. Versus like now, like this relationship is like completely flipping, from tools that enable humans to do the work to humans enabling AI or tools to do the work. And it's a
Mm.
fascinating switch because it means, it means so many different things. In the way you build software, like for the world where you're enabling tool to the human to do the work, it's different. You're thinking about like
Mm.
usability because you're thinking about how humans work, right? Whenever you're building that first type of software, you're thinking, oh, like has to be nicely designed, point and click interface, right? But when you're thinking about when humans are switching and becoming enablers of tools, you're completely thinking about different things. You're thinking about explainability. You're thinking about transparency,
Mm.
how you can actually build a system which is so explainable so that humans can go and understand what's going on like immediately. They can unblock or they can debug the AI agent quickly. And I feel, this flip is actually something we're like witnessing in real time right now.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard anyone model it that way before, as humans enabling tools. That's really exciting. And what is the work that a human does with Kodif?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff, right? First, you need to build your AI agent. And you can do this like either you can write your AI agent, it's all in natural language, or you need to import
Mm.
your SOP, which already exists somewhere because you give instructions to human agents, right? But then we built a framework, for example, because we know that AI agents, they don't think in the same way as humans do. So we built a framework where you give instructions to AI agent in the natural language in a way that AI will understand and will be so accurate in following it. So that's the first aspect of your work. You built an AI agent. Okay, cool. Now you need to test this AI agent against real case
Mm.
scenarios. And here you can either imitate a conversation yourself. We built a testing framework and you can actually imitate the conversation. You can test so many edge cases. What will happen if the question will be this and that and this? And then that's kind of the second piece, but also you can actually upload your historical conversations and you can just run them through how this new AI agents would have handled these conversations from the past. And then you test this, you get to a good level of accuracy, and then your goal is to release this into production gradually so that you can always monitor what's going on. And then you can always tweak something, you can go back and retest it. So it's kind of like constant iteration. What's nice about this, you invest a lot of time upfront and these AI agents will be up and running. It's not like humans churn, they like, the attrition rate is high for support agents. But with our AI agents, yes, we never say like it's plug and play. AI agents, I think they're going to be unique to your company. They need to
Mm.
be trained on your brand's voice. We need to know how you want to sound like to your customers. You might be very informal. You maybe make your AI agents use certain terms. For example, we have this use case, for example, is called disambiguation. Some companies have one word which might mean three things. Credit means credit score, credit check, or credit history. And
Mm.
you want to tell your AI agent because humans would go and clarify, like, hey, what do you mean? AI agent needs to get some instructions as well. So that's what humans do with our AI. But
Mm.
once it's done, you need to constantly like look at conversations. We have a QA framework as well. But
Mm.
high level, like that's what you do. And then you get to a very comfortable place with your AI program.
How do you think that intersects with the jobs that will be available to humans in the future?
So the way we think is the CX jobs will be elevated and
Mm.
some of them will be eliminated. I mean, I'm not gonna be like sugarcoating here, but I think the quality of work will be so much higher, in terms of, and the way I was thinking about this is even internally is like there will be like CX engineers, which is like you can build your AI agent without being technical, by the way. And
Mm.
I think that's the advantage of me not being technical because I'm like, if I don't understand this, I don't think any non-technical person will understand this. So that's kind of like a positive thing of me not being technical. But the idea is this, right? And also, there's this thing called Jevons paradox. And basically, the idea is that if something becomes very available, people say, oh, like the usage is going to go down. Usually, it's the opposite. It's a paradox that actually it becomes more popular. And the example of this is like ATMs, right? When ATMs came up in 1920s in the US, everyone thought, oh, bank teller's job will be gone. There won't be bank tellers ever.
Mm,
And now there are more bank tellers by 100x or 1000x than it was in 1920s because the banking became so available. The resource became so
mm,
available. So, and I think with support, I feel like, customer support is probably underserved still. So
mm,
there's an argument to be made that probably because of this, a lot of these tickets will be handled by AI agents, simple ones, and more complicated ones, which customers would never reach out to companies because they're like, this is pain. I don't want to do that. Now they'll be more willing to go and talk to AI agent, if not, then to human agent. So there's an argument to be
mm,
made that probably like you won't be like as bad as we all are thinking. At the same
mm,
time, I'm not saying like this won't impact any jobs. It will. And in some ways, it will be like elevating jobs from doing the work to actually teaching AI to do the work. I think that's kind of the big transition from the work perspective. And from other like angles, I would say like and I heard this somewhere, I don't remember where, but it's not going to be like AI versus human. It's going to be human with AI against human. So,
hmm,
and you want to be on on the same side with AI. You want to be enabled by AI if you're doing the work, because some work will still be done by humans. If you're like high level director or VP, probably your work is more about judgment, like judgment calls, like
mm,
decisions, conversations with customers or employees. And if you're using AI like to do that, to do your work, I think that's where you want to be. And yeah, if AI is replacing your job, then you probably want to be like, you know, how I can become a teacher or coach or, a trainer of AI, because this is going to be like a job on its own. And we even started seeing this from our clients that they started having this position title, AI manager, AI manager of AI tools. And these are the people who will
mm.
be like managing the whole AI program for CX, for sales, for different organizations. So, and you don't need to be technical to do that. So that's kind of the nice thing
Mm.
about tools of this generation, including Kodif.
Very neat. Manager of AI tools. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see job postings for that.
Oh man, I mean, I saw a couple of job postings and we were even helping to draft some of those for our clients.
That's super cool. Any chance you could share one with me so I could just
Well, yeah,
share what it looks like? Because I've never
I'll
seen one.
share like I'll share like I anonymize it and I'll share one with you.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
And what's a deeply held belief that you've had about AI that's changed?
That's a good question. We had this conversation like a couple of days ago where one of our engineers like, hey, like we're doing this thing to like support agents, but Anthropic or Cursor, these companies like which are like building this AI engineers, they're like replacing us. And so it's kind of like crazy world, right? But in my opinion, I think, and I always thought, yeah, this is probably like coming very soon. But this is probably a hot take, but I don't think AGI will be something that will replace all this human work. And I used to think like a couple of years ago, well, a year and a half ago, I'm like, whoa, this AI will probably completely like wipe us out, and it will be like so much smarter. And of course, we're working with AI and stuff like that, but even like at the enterprise level, we're seeing a lot of imperfections. You need to build a lot of guardrails, frameworks. So working like very closely with AI, I cannot see where AGI is in like in 2 years or 3 years, and which I kind of used to believe. And so I wouldn't say like I don't think AGI. I mean, I'm hearing Sam Altman and like Dario from Anthropic, like they're all talking about AI replacing everything and AGI is coming. And yeah, I'm not technical, of course, but I'm like working like with customers' problems every day, and I'm using this cutting edge tools for this, like LLMs. And I'm still seeing so many things that can be done better, and I'm like, and that's the kind of dissonance I have, which is, yeah, I mean, I trust what these guys are telling me, but at the same time, on the ground, I'm not seeing that. And there's this big gap yet still. So, and I feel like that's what I used to believe. But when I started really like working closer and solving real problems in customer support, I'm not saying customer support is the most complicated. It's like actually maybe one of the most obvious applications of Gen AI. But imagine if you're talking about healthcare, right? Or, you're talking about AI doctors or AI lawyers, regulated industries. I think there's a long way to go actually.
Mm, I like it. I also find some of those claims hard to believe.
Mhm, mhm, yeah.
And just as The last question, is there anything that you would like to share or to talk about that we haven't yet?
I think I just want to maybe share this thought, which is humans were so resilient. In the history of humankind is just we've come so far. And this electricity example, when electricity came out, like no one thought that television will be there, and then television will be enabled by electricity. That's why like TV shows will come up, and there will be so many people employed in these jobs someone wouldn't have imagined. In 19 like I don't know 1920s. Or another example, like fridge, like freezing technology, which came up, which is like, also enabled by electricity. And then like companies like Coca-Cola came up and became one of the main beneficiaries of freezing technology, like the fridge companies, right? So, humans are so resilient, and I'm sure like humans, we will find out what to do next. And even if low paying jobs and boring jobs will be gone, we'll definitely find something that is more meaningful and more important than maybe like my current job, which I'm so scared to lose. So I'm a techno optimist, and I just want to share like that, hey, let's stay optimistic. We're resilient. We're stronger than we think we are. And we've come so far as a humanity. I just feel I'm so optimistic that we will figure it out.
I started this podcast because I wanted to stand at the gate of businesses using AI and see what separated hype from lasting impact. Back when cities had walls, you had to go into the city to do business at the market. So, if you wanted to talk to someone, you waited by the gate until they came in or came out. Do that enough times and you could talk to everyone. That's what I want to do. Stand at the gate of people doing business with AI and talk to them, see what they do and why they do it. If you know someone that's making an impact in the world of AI, would you connect them with me? You can find me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at daniel@manary.house. That's Daniel at MANARY.HAUS. Thanks for listening.